Got it again. I tried to fiddle with it before the camera went live. It didn't work. Didn't work. I'm jumping on slightly early to give people a time. So I know this is taking a while. I'm just going to fiddle with the camera as well. That's a pen that looks like it's about to poke my eye out. Hello, first viewer, whoever you are. Please do say hi. Don't hide. It's great to know. Even if you just do a like. As I was saying a lot last week, I'm looking over here. Sorry, I'm just checking that everything's gone live. But there's people on watching, so it must be live, right? I'm going to apologise for a few things up front, which is not necessarily the best thing to be doing. I appreciate of actually apologising. But I do seem to be having a little bit of a loony moment. I'm assuming that that's because I'm something to do with the full moon that's impacting me. So I apologise. Hi, Ruth. Hope you had a lovely holiday and you're rested. Andy Sales. Now, there's a name I haven't seen pop up on my Facebook Live. It's lovely to see you, Andy. Both of you, would you do me a lovely favour of... Oh, gosh, I've got a very dirty thumb. I hadn't realised that. Of doing thumbs up because, as I was just about to say... It really helps this to then reach out to other people, and if you like it, it then gets onto their pages, etc., etc. And Facebook have recently changed their algorithms with regards Facebook Lives. So the more thumbs up that you can do throughout the time that you're watching, or hearts, or any emoticons, quite frankly. Thank you, Andy. That it just helps reach loads of people. So thank you, Ruth. I really appreciate that. And that's a great thing. So that's the first thing I wanted to make sure that people know. So yeah, just keep doing those every so often. That's awesome. I'm just realising that I don't think I checked my face beforehand to see if I have my dinner around my face. Thankfully, I don't think I do. I also do want to let you know that I haven't actually been in a fight other than with myself. This is a cooking accident. Cooking's dangerous. Don't do it. It's not true. Yeah, I managed to burn myself when I was cooking the other day. This is a different kind of little accident that's happened, and I don't really know how that's happened, but I thought I'd flag it up and let you know that I'm perfectly safe, and maybe don't need to be living on my own, because maybe not safe on my own. Yeah, I've apologised for a little bit of my funny mood. I do think it must be to do with the full moon. I haven't been drinking. I've only been eating good stuff today, so yeah, that's all I can put it down to is the full moon, which I hope that you have a sky that is slightly less cloudy than the one that we've got here in York, because I've not been able to see it full on. I do love a full moon regardless of whether it's a super moon or not. So I'm waffling, if you hadn't gathered, just to give people a little bit of time, because it does take a bit of time with Facebook Live for people to know that I've gone live. Something as a heads up for those of you who maybe haven't watched these before, you can, I believe that when you're watching it, it pops up to say get notifications. And guess what? If you click on that, when I go live on this page, you will get notifications so that you know what's going on. So I can now turn Facebook off there and bring up the other page that I want to kind of read from. So this evening's conversation / question time, and for those of you who have not watched any of these before, it really is a conversation. This is something that I invite you to come into a conversation with, join me, not just only through the whole emoticon thing, but actually put your point of view forward about what I'm saying, challenge it, question it, flag up what's working, what's not, where it fits in your life, whatever it may be. Because that is what this is about. My aim with these question time sessions, I set myself a challenge to do them every week for 6 months. I think there's only been about 2 or 3 that I've not been able to do, one of which was done. You need people to like your page first, Jules, if you haven't already. Thank you, Andy. I love that. Thank you very much. So my aim was to do them every week, and I've pretty much done them, other than a couple of times I couldn't get internet connection, or I had to reschedule them to the Tuesday because I had something booked in on the Monday which I couldn't shift. And the aim is, I do want to start I'm going to call it a revolution because that's the aim when I finally understand how to fully articulate it, around people understanding what the truth about confidence really is, because I believe that there is a great deal of misunderstanding perpetuated by personal development and self-help books around the fake it till you make it stuff, the pretending, the act as if, all of that, which is a great starting point, but it's not necessarily how you can continue the journey. And that was my own personal experience with it. And I wanted to share that with people and reach out as much as possible. And as I was thinking about that, Facebook Live was launched. So I thought that this is a perfect way to be able to connect with people, hence why this has started. But I'm always looking for your questions, your thoughts, your challenges. So feel free to either put them in the box below, or if you would rather message me direct, and I'm more than happy to build a topic around that for you to have that conversation. The whole reason this evening's topic, how to keep your head when all about are losing theirs, has come about. I slightly misquoted it, I think. Let me read it properly. Welcome, Graham. For the rest of you who have not met Graham, meet the lovely Graham. Graham is a regular, so it's lovely to have you on board. So the actual quote is, it's from a Rudyard Kipling poem, which is called If. And the poem starts with, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. And it goes on in that vein about, if you can do this even though this is happening, if you can do this even though this is happening. And it really popped into my mind today for a number of reasons, actually. One, because of some stuff that's going on for me in my life, but also because of the events of the past week, but also because it's coming to the end of this calendar year. I'm also thinking about what kind of year this has been like for myself, but also on a bigger perspective, the kind of year that this has been like for a number of people, and even on a global perspective. I mean, the last week obviously has been very interesting, to say the least. So I thought this was a really interesting topic to bring to the table, because somebody happened to mention to me how they... I'm sure they didn't mean it in the way that it came across. The way it came across was quite, I don't know if patronising is the right word, but what they said to me, well, it's all right for you, you've got it all sorted. And I thought it was a very interesting concept, because they then started to go into telling me about what was wrong with their life, all the things that were falling apart, the background that they had had, the experiences they had had, how their life wasn't working out for them, how they didn't have this and didn't have that, and they hadn't had this opportunity, and blah, blah, blah. And out of respect, I listened to them for a certain period of time. And then it got to a point when I realised kind of just how much they were exaggerating their drama and their story, and were looking for me to buy into it. And I choose not to do that. My aim is to not do that for myself, because I don't believe it doesn't serve me. And when I'm with somebody else, even if it doesn't have to be a coaching client, but my aim is to not do that to somebody else, because I don't believe it serves them. And it's not that I'm then going to go into coaching mode. It's more about recognizing that the stories that we tell ourselves aren't necessarily the truth, and that can be the very thing that keeps us stuck. Now, whether we like it or not, the period of time in history that we are alive, which at some point, even tomorrow morning becomes history, even this morning now is history, that it is an evolutionary period. Whether we like it or not, things change. Nature is always evolving. We're moving from one season to the next, and yes, they may not be as linear or defined as they used to be, but they are still there. You know, the temperature has changed in the UK, very significant in the last couple of weeks. Things change. Things are always moving. You know, global warming, however it's come about, I'm not going to get into that kind of argument, but it is happening. Things are changing. And from a human perspective, you know, just over 100 years ago, we had a very significant change that happened with the onset of the Industrial Revolution. And The Industrial Revolution, things have been, agriculture, for example, had been done a certain way for a certain length of time. And then all of a sudden, this new technology came along, which enabled them to not have to use horses, which enabled them to be able to get more things done, which enabled them not to necessarily use as much manpower. And I'm pretty sure that at that period in time that a lot of humans were going through very similar to what many seem to be experiencing in what we've got right now, which is this digital revolution. And really and truly, this whole digital revolution, I'm sat here in my home. I remember, I don't know how many of you are in the UK or how many of you are the same age as myself. Sorry, I shall turn that off. That's somebody private messaging me. Aren't I popular? That sounded a bit funny. But I remember there was a TV programme called Tomorrow's World. And Tomorrow's World, I can remember them showing these phones, and they were huge. And next to the phone had a little camera. You had the big handset and you had a little camera. And they had two phones in the studio in Tomorrow's World. And one person phoned the other one, they picked it up, or however they did this bit. And their face appeared very pixelated on this little screen, and the other person was chatting to them. And I can remember turning around and saying to my parents, that's ridiculous. Why would you want to do that? The whole point is that you're on the phone. You don't have to see people. And that's ridiculous. That's never going to happen. Well, lo and behold, probably a bit more than 30 years later, not only is it happening, but I'm broadcasting. This is like I have my own TV show from my mobile phone, which of course we didn't have, in my house. This is just absolutely amazing what is possible. But nonetheless, we've been given this technology, we've been given this opportunity, but so few of us have really thought about, and I include myself in that, actually how to really use it in a way that helps us. And it's very easy to get, again, swept along with other people's stories. So, whether that be on Instagram or whether that be on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever it is, we're swept along, or even in emails. How many of you get swept along with those emails? And I was speaking at a conference recently, and one of the workshops, I can't remember the title of it. Yes, I can. It was, you've got mail, as in you've got these emails popping at you. And I spoke to one of the delegates afterwards, and, just generally, how was your workshop? And she said, it was amazing, really insightful. I didn't realise you could turn off your notifications for your emails. Sorry? I didn't realise you could turn them off. And I said, you do know you can switch your emails off during the day as well. Can you? Now, to me, that seemed really obvious. But to her at that moment in time, it really didn't seem obvious at all. And it was one of those things that she was letting technology dictate to her, and yet was losing her mind in the sense of all of the amount of things, which then, thinking that she had to get them done or answer immediately or whatever it may be, which for her story around that was then, I haven't got enough time, I'm going to get this wrong, and if I get it wrong, that means I'm going to lose my job, and if I lose my job, then that means I can't pay the mortgage. If I can't pay the mortgage, then blah, 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 blah. And these stories then spiral out of control extremely quickly, and we are in this period of change which is bound to challenge us, whether it be from a digital perspective, but whether it be from a political perspective. We have had our politics be, regardless of where you sit within the political system, we've had them be a certain way for quite a significant period of time. And it is about to change. What that landscape of what it actually changes into, I'm no fortune teller, I don't know. But it's being challenged in so many different angles from so many different people. And I think that it is going to change. And what we have to recognise that for so many of us, when things start to change, that's when these stories pop up, this drama that we create for ourselves. And that then from that, we then kind of either go into this kind of stressed situation, or maybe we might get angry, or we get frustrated, or maybe we might retreat, get depressed, feel sad, whatever it may be. But we start to... how can I say? I can't think of how to say it. But we get ourselves so worked up in all of these different stories that it's just not helpful. And by the time we're doing that, we feel like we're losing our minds. And then before you know it, you're in a conversation with two people that are losing their minds. And then there's three and four and so on and so forth. And you end up getting on this debate on Facebook or any other social media or email or on the good old fashioned phone, whatever it may be, or even dare I say, a conversation in the street face to face with people, where we're all kind of like whipping ourselves up into this frenzy, rather than just hitting pause and going, okay, there's a lot going on right now. There is a lot going on, and I can't sort it all out. But what I can do is look after myself in all of this, and I can do my best to take care of myself. I can't forcibly change the political system. If I am that way inclined, of course I can get involved with that if that's my bag. Or it might be to do with the environment, or it might be to do with the digital revolution. If that's my bag, I can get involved with it. Absolutely. I'm not saying don't get involved. But what I'm saying is that notice what goes on for you. How are you describing it? What's the story that you're getting hooked into around it? And the first kind of thing that I personally would offer to flag up, if you are noticing any kind of tension, any kind of, and I mean like physical tension, any kind of discomfort, any kind of, I don't necessarily mean physical discomfort in that sense, any kind of stress or worrying, or maybe you're not sleeping, or maybe you're not noticing anything else that's going on. Anytime you kind of notice yourself in that place where maybe you think that you're losing your head, is just hit pause. Okay, that's my first invitation. Hit pause just for a few moments. It's not stop, it literally is pause. You can carry on carry on playing in the next few moments. But hit pause and ask yourself, what am I resisting about this situation? What am I resisting about this situation? And in fact, I shall put that under here for you if I can type that fast. And if you've got a particular situation that you know you're losing your head over, or you are stressing about or worrying about in any way, shape or form, then ask yourself that question now. What did I say? What am I resisting about this situation? And I'd love to know your thoughts on what I'm saying so far. Oh, thank you, Andy, for sharing with your friends too. If Debs and Julie are on, then please do say hi, join in the conversation. So please remember to like the page as well. Now, the reason I like this question about what am I resisting about situation is it kind of fuzz on. Sorry, I'm fiddling with my camera. The new way that Facebook have got this set up, I do notice that the comments come up, and if the comments come up too high, I realise that I kind of disappear under a wall of comments. So I keep fiddling to try and make sure that you can at least see my face, because I know when I'm watching, if any of you do Facebook Lives or any kind of videos, by the way, be aware of that, because for myself, I tend to lip read more than I listen. I hadn't realised I did that until I noticed somebody talking and I couldn't see their mouth, and I really struggled. So I obviously lip read a lot more than I realised. Obviously a party trick that I was unaware of. The reason I love the question, what am I resisting about this situation, is it always reminds me of one of my favourite quotes by one of my teachers, who is Adyashanti. And Adyashanti has, his quote is, she says, a sure way to suffer is to argue with what is. A sure way to suffer is to argue with what is. So when I ask myself, what am I resisting? For me, it's about then stopping and checking back in with myself. Is what am I arguing with? Am I arguing with, yeah, we know it shouldn't be this way, or I don't want it to be this way? So I'll give you the real world situation of what's going on for myself at this moment in time. Is I've got a number of work opportunities that haven't quite got over the line yet, and they're kind of close to, but they're not quite there yet. And I noticed last week that the story I was telling myself was that, but they need to happen now, and they need to happen now, and I don't understand why they're happening now. And I could hear this kind of like inner dialogue, this inner drama kind of going on. And then I noticed that I was feeling physically uncomfortable. Actually, started to notice there was tension. It's usually in my shoulders and kind of up my neck here. So I noticed that for myself, and I asked myself, what am I resisting? And started to look into that. And when I got clarity on that, I even just asking myself that question made my brain kind of start to go into, well, hang on a second, well, that's kind of futile really to resist that they're not over the line yet, because I've done everything I can. It's just a case of being patient, and patience is a practice for me. If any of you know me, you'll know that it is a practice of mine, of being patient. So I just had to recognize that actually my resistance was about my impatience. And I'm like, okay, so what is the point in telling myself a story about getting these business deals signed over the line and happening now? Because I can't do anything about that. And the only person that's affecting is myself, and I'm getting stressed and worked up about it. So what's the point in that? Why on earth what is that? How is that serving anybody? So just give yourself some space to ask that question, what am I resisting? That alone, as I say for myself, enables me, linking it back into the title of this, to kind of keep my head, because it helps me get clarity. It helps me start to stick to the facts rather than step away from the dramas. And when you're with people who are going into their dramas, going into their stories, we have to recognize and honor the fact for both for ourselves and for other people that a drama, a story that we tell ourselves, can seem exceedingly real and is very seductive. It's the brain, the thinking mind, the thinking brain creates these stories. It creates this information and just keeps reiterating it over and over and over again. And it's to do with the buttons and the patterns and the stories and everything that we've told ourselves for years, until we really challenge them to change them. So it's looking to keep buying into those repeats, basically. It wants those repeats. So it will retell itself the same drama over and over again, but it might kind of change a few of the characters, or it might change a few little details here and there to keep it feeling a bit fresh. But we're so used to it. We're so known. It is so known to us that it seduces us in. It's like this, it's like, I don't know if you are a Starbucks or a Costa or I can't think of any other Cafe Nero. If you're a coffee fan, and you've gone, right, that's it, I'm never going to drink it again. And then all of a sudden you walk past somewhere and seduces you back in. Or it might be alcohol, or it might be a cake, or it could be the chocolate bar, or whatever it is, that it just seduces you back in. And it's the same as this thing up here. It's addictive and it seduces us back in, which is why I was saying that I know, and it's a practice for me to be aware of for myself, that I do my best not to buy into my own stories, and then to be of service and help other people. I do my best not to, buy into theirs. And as I say, it's not like my aim isn't to be rude and just kind of whatever, tell it to the hand because the head ain't listening kind of attitude, because I don't think that's very fair. But it is about recognizing that whether you buy into that, if you feed it. I've got a particular person in my life that loves telling their stories, and I know that they wouldn't for them, it's so seductive. They wouldn't want to step away from them. They're not ready to at this moment in time. And me forcing them to step away from that is not going to be helpful either. Not helpful for me and my friendship with that particular person, or my relationship with that person. So there's no point that becomes about me. But I don't feed it. I don't feed their stories. So when they go into telling me the stories, I just kind of listen, because they obviously want to get it off their chest, but I then don't feed it. I might then ask a completely different question or talk about something else randomly, so that I can keep saying we're all about losing their heads, basically. So it's the same thing, when you're hearing people getting caught up in these dramas and creating their stress, their frustration, their upset for themselves, that suffering, that internal suffering, is we need to do whatever we can for ourselves, if we're the ones doing it, of stepping away and checking what am I resisting in this, about this change. And also then not buying into that drama, not buying into that story, basically. So I'm going to pause, because I know it takes a little bit of a while for, I know there's a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Time delay. That's the word. So I'm going to have a bit of a sip of my drink. So please do share your thoughts. What do you think about what I've said about how to keep your head when all about you are losing theirs? How does that fit for you? What do you notice for you? What are you resisting about that process? Graham, very interesting. I can't. Oh, it's a smiley face. Couldn't really see that then. So yeah. Anybody else? And please, as a reminder, the thumbs up. Even though I've got a dirty thumb, don't quite know where that's come about. Doing thumbs up and sharing this post really does help reach other people. And the whole purpose of me doing these every week is to do what I can, share what information I've had and I've learned that has made a difference to my life. And if you are not aware of my journey, thank you for all the thumbs up and hearts and stuff. Very briefly, what has happened in my life in the last 15 years, and the information that I've learned more specifically over the last 8 years, but what has really, really helped. I came from not feeling confident in myself. There is no way on this planet I would have done a Facebook Live without a script, let alone if I'd have gone onto a camera at all. I don't think I would have done, actually. And certainly I would have wanted to make sure that my hair was perfect, which it certainly, well, it is what it is at the moment. It needs to be cut. There's no point in resisting it. It's there. And I probably would have wanted to cancel it because of the cuts that I've got and the marks on my face, and I haven't redone my makeup and all of that kind of stuff. I had very low self-esteem. I had no confidence in myself as a person, and didn't have any self-belief at all. And I got myself to the point of wanting to take my own life, and attempted to, and I'm extremely grateful to be a failure where that is concerned. And I don't say that kind of stuff lightly. But I know that this information that I have learned initially very much from the coaching perspective. Now that's really funny, because there was a happy laughy face that came across just as I talked about taking my own life. Talk about put things in perspective. I love it. You can't see the marks, Andy. There you go. They're there. Thank you, people. I wasn't saying, oh, look at you, you're all lovely, saying lovely things about me. I wasn't saying it for that, but thank you. I do appreciate them. But what I'm trying to get across, because it's really very easy for people to see somebody at this point in their journey and kind of go, well, it's all right for them. And believe me, this hasn't come without a lot of hard work and dedication. As those of you that know that have come on my retreat, which I know there's at least one of you on here that has, those of you who have worked with me in person, which I know that there's at least one of you that has, that you will know how dedicated I am to this. You will know how committed I am. I walk the talk. And that's why I really wanted to make sure that these videos happen, so that there is a way to kind of be an outreach, basically. And with all of the craziness that is going on, I recognise that there are a lot of people at this moment in time with this world situation that feel uncertain, that are scared, that are frustrated, worried for themselves, for their family, for the future, and quite rightly so in some senses. But what I would say, and this is something that kind of really does help me. So would I, for example, I'm just going to say this from this perspective, and we'll see. From my perspective, having somebody in charge of a country, any country, regardless of the size of the country, that talks about different races, different genders, different sexual persuasions, in the way that Donald Trump has, I personally I wouldn't want that for anybody at all, any country. And if I was in the position to have voted differently with that, then I would have been involved in that sense. But I've sat with this quite a lot for myself when I've got frustrated, upset, worried, stressed, whatever it may be, to do with, especially when it comes to political situations. And rather than tell myself the story of, oh my God, but this could happen, and if they got in power, then that could happen, and then this is definitely going to happen, which this thing wants to go into and can go into very, very easily, is what I do for myself is I ask myself, what am I resisting about this? And interestingly enough, the answer that comes up for me very often is I'm resisting the fact that I feel powerless. I'm resisting that I feel powerless about that situation, or being able to do anything about that situation. So then I'll question a bit deeper into that powerlessness. So is it true that I am powerless to go and do something about that political situation, for example? And quite often the answer that will come back is, well, no, I'm not powerless. I could go and do something if I wanted to, but do I want to? And that's where things can really start to get interesting. Because really and truly, any of us, if we wanted to make a stand against something, or even for something, if we really wanted to make a difference in that sense, then we would go do it. And yet the majority of us don't. And part of that, yes, could be down to what we perceive as apathy, or it could be down to the fact that we are doing other things that actually we are passionate about as our purpose and where we want to put our energy. And for me, for example, rather than lose my own head, to keep my own head, I focus on, okay, I'm not that way inclined to go down that political route, for example. So I need to look at what I can do, check in that I have done all those things, same as I would do with the business things I was talking about earlier, is have I done everything I possibly can? If the answer is yes, I have done everything I possibly can, then okay, well, what needs my attention? And that could be something like the washing or the ironing or cooking, or it could be the emails, or it could be that I need to do some exercise. It could be anything. So it's about checking in. You know, the best way to help others is help yourself first. I love the quote, and I can't remember where it originally comes from. I always think it's connected to Buddhism, but I'm not 100% sure. Which is, you can light 1,000 candles from one single candle without taking anything away from that first candle. And it's so true, because when you do focus on keeping your own head, being clear for yourself what's right for you, what's working for you, it's not about negating other people, but from that place of calmness, from that place of peace, you can be far more of service to other people than you could if you were losing it yourself. So, thank you very much, Graham. I may come across as a very strong individual, and to get here, I am a strong individual, and to get here, it's taken taken time, it's taken effort, it's taken work, and I know that with what you've talked about, with the challenges that you have, I know that you're putting that effort in for you too to make those differences. So what are your thoughts on how you can keep your head when all about are losing theirs? What are your thoughts with regards to that? I love that, Jane. So Jane has put, in my situation, I found that checking I've done what I can and need to, then I feel I can move on. To me, that's the beauty of it. That's the simplicity of it. And I'm going to share this, Jane, because I know that you have put it on publicly on the Confidence Garden page. But Jane had a wonderful insight for herself by being herself, and that things at work changed by her showing up as herself, which is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. You can't be anybody else, so be you. So thank you for sharing that as well, Jane. I'm going to read you, I wanted to finish with reading you the full Rudyard Kipling poem, If. Once I've read this through, I will check, so if you do want to type anything else, then please feel free to. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make your thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth ye have spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, if you can make heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your term long after they are gone, and so hold on when there's nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. I'd kind of forgotten about that poem, and when I reread it today, because that first line, excuse me, that's really touched me. When that first line came to me today, I went back and reread the whole thing, and there is so much in there that hopefully will remind you that it's about, I love the fact that it says, if you can dream and not make your dreams your master, and if you can think and not make your thoughts your aim. There's so much there that flavours the essence of what I want to share with you about how to keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, because we are in a time of change which may not be easy, it may not be comfortable, it may not be as immediately joyous and graceful and perfect and loving as we would like it to be. And yet, as humans, we've been through so many changes, and I'm sure that we will go through many more, even when none of us exist and this technology looks old. So give yourself the dream we can dream. I'm glad that you liked it. I'm glad that you've been here this evening to be able to have this conversation about how you can keep your head in these times of change. I hope you found this evening of value. By the way, in case you didn't know, when I press finish, I've pointed down there as if you can see the finish button. Obviously you can't. If you give it about a minute, 2 minutes, this, thank you for all the hearts and the thumbs up. This then goes onto the Confidence Garden page where you can share it immediately. If you think that I'm sure that there is somebody in your life that you know could do with listening to some of this information. So please feel free to share. Please feel free to invite people to the page. And as far as I'm aware, and again, I haven't got my diary to hand, there's no reason as to why I will not be doing the Facebook Live next week, as far as I'm concerned. So if you have any specific questions or topics you would like me to talk about, or even any poems that have inspired you, then please do let me know. And until then, you're welcome, Graham. Thank you for joining me, or joining us. It's not just me. It's a full-on party this evening. Please do let me know. You can either direct message me on the page, or you can email me, jules@juleswyman.com, or you can post your question if you want to directly below here. Obviously, I'll get a message to say that that's there. But whatever you do your best to be compassionate with other people when they are caught up in their own stories, and just be mindful of your own story and do what you can to notice what you're resisting, and just check in with yourself if you've done all that you can, and if you have, then there's nothing else for you to do, and just take a deep breath before you hit play again. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. In the meantime, take care. Bye.